Hey everybody, been a bit of a long evening, and so let's just get this party started. Hey, listen, so usually I get Best Speaker Award by giving away a free suit. So if everybody would like to email Randy Binning, randy.binning@indochino.com, we'll randomly give away a free suit. So just text him now. Randy heads up our retail operations, and clearly you guys probably could use a suit for your pitches and things like that, right? So it'll just dress you up. So when Pindy and I talked a week or so ago, she wanted me to reflect and maybe talk about something that I learned or something that I wish I knew. And really the common thread for me would be about data and just how important it is to know your shit and to actually get at really good data. So I'm going to tell you a couple of war stories. So years ago, I was at Procter & Gamble. I was a brand manager, and we had our annual budget meeting. And so this was a forum where basically the senior management team and sometimes board members would grill you. And literally, the ethos of this meeting was they would try to find what's wrong with your thinking. So we used to prepare for a month or two for this budget meeting, and then you would be under fire. And really, that was a lesson for me on really studying the business and looking under every nook and cranny and understanding the data and having good answers. And really, that equipped me to be very successful in my career. And I've always just relied on the data and the numbers and knowing my facts. And I think that really is important if you guys are looking at investors and anyone wanting to know how you're watching your business. For a while, I was Zeller's VP of Marketing, and that was a $3.5 billion retail company. And we were looking at the data to find our positioning strategy, and we reverse engineered market share. You couldn't just buy market share in the retail or the apparel category. And so we determined that we were the #1 market share brand for kids wear in Canada. And so we made a recommendation that we position Zellers as the store for mums or mum store. So when I presented that to our CEO, he actually said that was some of the worst piece of shit thinking he'd ever seen. I'm not even kidding. And there was about 8 or 10 in the meeting. I was like mortified and embarrassed and couldn't believe that the CEO would call me out that way. So I actually went to him the next day and said I was embarrassed and that it wasn't fair, that I was on his team, and that he ignored the data. And actually we moved forward with the recommendation and we positioned it as mum store. And that was probably the fastest growing period that Zeller's ever had. So stick to your guns and use data, and that really helps a lot. So then I was at Lavalife and I was chief executive officer, and that was really fun. That was back in the sort of the wild, wild web days, back in 2000. And in those days, that was the first time I worked for private equity firms, and these guys were pricks. I mean, they were really hard on you, right? They would be, they were watching their money. And at the time, I recommended that we spend about 33% of revenue on advertising. So a $60 million business, we were actually spending $20 million in media. They thought I was crazy. And so what we did is we had a BI team and we had a good data team, and we just got our ducks together. We built all these acquisition funnels, and we looked at the cost per acquisition, the lifetime value of every customer. But very quickly, we built a $60 million brand into almost a $200 million brand. And we took it from 0 profitability to $5 million in 3 years. And so again, we used data to convince a board of a venture that they maybe weren't that keen on in the first place. And of course, they had a great exit, and we were all pretty satisfied with that. So here we are at Indochino. We are the fastest growing menswear apparel brand. We are the global leader in suits, made-to-measure suits. And we have a really smart board of directors. These guys are Amazon guys, and they are data-first guys. They give us a lot of help as partners. They participate in some of the management thinking. And actually, one of our board companies actually lends us a data specialist who's one of the smartest guys that I've ever met. And he helps to work with our teams and how we shape our data. When I started 3 years ago, we basically ran the company in terms of the financials off of a CSV file. And basically this all orders file had every information about an order. It had the customer name, it had the purchase amount, it had the date, it knew whether you were a repeat or a first-time customer. But in order to shape data, we had to run SQL queries against the database. So if I had a board meeting, it would be 10 days or 2 weeks of nothing but SQL queries to shape some graphs and charts to come up with a few insights on the business, and that wasn't really very satisfying. So we went on a journey to get a BI team, and what we did is we built a data warehouse. But on that data warehouse, we put a semantic layer. Not semantic layer, what it can do is it can pivot on anything against anything. So basically what this allows the business to do is to drag and drop pivot tables on almost anything you can think of. And to make it easy, we did one for the retail universe, we did one for the all orders universe, and we did a third for a loyalty model. And what used to take me maybe 10 days to put the board meeting together now takes 1 day. We just did due diligence on an investment process, and what would normally take me 3 or 4 weeks took me 1 day. And in any question you could think about the business, if you wanted to trip me up or ask me a hard question, we could probably get at within 15 minutes. And so really, data through my career has evolved, and of course data and technology is really involved. But if I have one advice, to give everyone, it's get your data, know your business, and it will be entirely liberating for you, and I wish you all much success. Thanks.
I've got like 20 emails already.
Oh, well, if you want to declare the winner, just you can just pick one and we'll do it. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Any questions for Peter? Data-driven decisions. No one's like excited about that like me? Oh, there we go. Come on up. 2. Whoever makes it here first. Do. There you go.
Thank you, Peter, for the insights that you've shared here at the forum. And I have like fairly similar experience with the data that you mentioned back in India. My job was to derive a lot of insights from loads of data from point of sales, from loyalty customers, and convert that into insights and present it to the top management to open new stores, open new retail stores. So in your opinion, if I were to find similar jobs here in Vancouver, do you think that I should have some BI certification, like business intelligence certification or something? Or
I mean, what a great question. I think there's certification and there's people that are self-taught that are just so remarkably smart. And I think if you're curious and super smart, the designation is probably less important than the actual critical thinking.
What was your name?
Gaurav.
Gaurav, are you looking for a job?
So I have a marketing analyst job open right now. So if your IQ is off the chart and you like marketing intelligence, then give me a call.
Definitely, sure. Thank you so much, Peter. Have a nice day.
I'm also looking for a job as an analyst as well. So either, I guess there'll be a war, Peter.
Great. Yeah, exactly.
Jason?
That is awesome. Yeah. Just interested to hear a few words about your take on online attribution. So,
oh wow, do you have an hour? So really important to our executive team, our CEO, and our board is marketing attribution, and by that we mean how to tie the marketing channel back to the transaction. And so on digital marketing, which we call click-based. So if I come to a Facebook or a paid search ad or a digital, display impression, I can track my click path pretty well, and we use something called Convertro, which does a fractional attribution model. But what happens is when you go to offline advertising, so when we do television and radio and podcasts, how do you actually attribute it? So we've spent about 18 months building a proprietary attribution model. And what it does is it has 4 quadrants: retail new, retail repeat, online new, and online repeat. And what it does is it looks at click data, it looks at survey data, how did you hear about us, which is a checkout function for both online and retail, and it looks on coupon data. And depending on whether you have 1, 2, or 3 of those attributes, it scores and then it allocates back. So I can tell you on a CPO, cost per order, or CPA, cost per acquisition for a new customer, what each marketing channel is doing. So if I have a lifetime value of around $600 and I have a CPA, cost per acquisition, of around $200, then that channel is infinitely profitable, and I can tell you my top 5 marketing channels, and we run the attribution model every week, and I report to the board every month, and we actually look at our spend by marketing channel daily. So we've got a whole world on attribution, and we're never going to be finished. And that's what one of the jobs that I have open, the marketing analyst, is to actually run that attribution model. But nobody's solved it, and I guarantee you that's what keeps CMOs up at night right now.
I guess just the online channel going directly to be so click focused. Why would that be, and not sort of looking at view-throughs and whatnot?
Well, so that's a really good question. So for those of you that don't know, view-throughs would be impression-based advertising. So if I'm in your Facebook feed and you just see it, but you don't click on it, and then you click the next day, that would be a view-through. Our theory is we only care about clicks. So we ignore the impressions. That's just nice to have in some worlds. And so we want hardcore data. So we ignore view-throughs. But we do look at the click path and the relevance of it. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. We just happen to use a click-based model. Great.
Wonderful. I have a question. What's your, last one.
Yeah.
Hi. That was really good. One question. How do you know, especially in a smaller company that maybe doesn't have your resources, what data is important?
What data is important?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question. I think for any company, you want to set a couple of, KPIs. So what are you worried about? Are you worried about your average order value? Are you worried about your total sales? Are you worried about your cost ratios? So once you figure out what those needles are, then how do you measure those, and how do you get at them, and how do you really get granular to achieve them? So I think that probably just answers the question.
So the analysis is almost more important than the data itself?
Well, so there is a school of thought which says don't structure your analysis too much, because a curious mind will find sort of new areas that you didn't otherwise think. So we have fairly structured approach to the data and how you get at it through the sort of the pivots that you can run. But there's another school of thought that says just get a bunch of people on that are great at SQL and let them get at the data any way they want, and that way they'll chase a hypothesis and maybe find some real insights that'll change your business. So no right answer again to that question. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peter. I was going to ask a question about what your best channels are right now.
Oh,
Because
so that's
here's
so
why.
easy.
I hear you guys on every podcast I'm
Yeah,
listening
so,
to.
well, I was thinking about that. So podcast is by far my #1 channel, and it's got the lowest cost per order. And why does it perform so well? Because it's well targeted to males, because it explains how it works, because it gets the endorsement, and things like Pod Save America are
I was
just
going to say Pod Save America is killing
Pod
it for
Save
you guys.
America, these are the Obama speechwriters. They're just brilliant, and they talk about us all the time, so that works really well. Paid search, Facebook are really, really strong channels for me, and we've just been endeavoring on a TV journey. It's a little harder to attribute, but it's looking really favorable too. But again, I would never get the marketing spend that I get or the approval from the board and our executive team if I didn't have the data to back it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. Randy, do you want to announce the winner?
Yeah.
Do you do women's wear?
You know what? We don't say we do women's wear,
Yeah.
but we do it really well. So Randy and his team can measure you guys up at our showroom.
So I have 18 entries.
Yeah.
I actually wear our suit. I'm not wearing mine today because I'm home last time.
Yeah.
It works for me perfectly.
Okay.
Mesh pattern.
Love it. See? Power suits. Hillary, watch out.
There we go.
So we have an 18 entries. I just want you to pick one number from 1 to 18.
7, my lucky number.
Okay.
Ronnie.
It's Gary Hicks.
There's there. All right.
Gary Hicks.
Congrats, Gary. So a quick thank you again to Peter. Warm round of applause.